Bridges. You wouldn't usually give them a second thought. They're just a means of getting somewhere, right? But some bridges are so terrifying, so toweringly tall, so downright pant-wetting, you'll be surprised they're even legal. So, from rickety rope walkways to thin glass-bottomed crossings, hold on tight as I take you across some of the scariest bridges in the world. A smashing time. I don't know about you, but I've got a serious fear of heights, which is why I'd never even consider walking across a glass bridge. I'd be terrified something like this would happen. That's one steaming pile of nope. How did it even get past health and safety? Well, this is the East Taiheng Glass Walk in Hubei, China. And luckily, the glass isn't actually cracking, it's just special effects. You see, the bridge is decked out with infrared sensors that can detect movement. When they sense somebody, light and sound effects are triggered to give the terrifying illusion that the bridge is cracking underneath their weight. So, of course, people quickly took to pranking their friends and posting it on social media. The cruel joke is made far more terrifying when you realize the walkway is built a vertigo-inducing 3,870 feet above sea level, which is higher than the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Unsurprisingly, then, there's been more than a little controversy surrounding it. In fact, the administration of East Taiheng had to administer an official apology. It makes sense. I mean, what's to stop someone panicking so much they accidentally flung themselves off? Ugh. Not much, apparently. After a series of accidents on the glass bridge in the province, East Taiheng Glasswalk was closed in 2019, along with 31 other similar skywalks. I guess they went a step too far with this one. You probably don't fancy smashing through a glass bridge, but if you want to be the first to know about my amazing videos, go ahead and smash those like and subscribe buttons. Anyway, back to it. Roped along. Rope bridges are scary at the best of times. Trust me, I fell off one in my junior school playground and still have a fear of frayed thread. But there's one rope bridge that makes my old schools look like it was made for kids. The Hussaini Suspension Bridge in Hunza, Pakistan, is touted by many as the most dangerous rope bridge in existence, and it's not hard to see why. This rickety nightmare hangs above the murky Borit River, and if you fell off, you could easily be swept away. So you'd think a bridge this treacherous would have at least some safety precautions, right? Well, wrong. It couldn't be less safe. Made from nothing more than planks of wood haphazardly strapped together with rope, one slip could send you plummeting into the water below. In fact, even if you stepped with the utmost precision, you could still go flying, which is, sadly, exactly what's happened to at least 10 poor people, according to locals. Oh yeah, and strong, icy winds rock the nightmarish contraption back and forth all year round. If you somehow need even more convincing, though, just look at the bridge it replaced, hanging in complete tatters next to it. What? You can't actually get onto that one, it's way too battered. But incredibly, tons of seemingly unhinged tourists ignore the obvious signs of danger and walk the intact one every year to test their courage. For locals, though, it's less a game and more a perilous necessity. I don't know, it looks far too ropey for me. Rotting road. You know, I said some of these bridges don't look like they should be legal? The ghostly Kwandinsky Bridge in Russia is one of them. Heralded by some as the world's most dangerous bridge, it has no railing, no grip, and no safety features to prevent drivers from plummeting straight off into the ice-cold water below. Jeez. And that's because it was never meant to be a bridge at all. At least, not one for cars. Built back in 1982, it was originally designed to be part of a railway system. However, the project was abandoned because of, wait for it, bad construction methods. So, instead of completely shutting it down, authorities made the not-so-wise decision to leave it to become a river crossing for daredevils. If you're brave, or stupid enough to cross this death trap, there isn't much margin of error. It's barely 6 feet wide, which is only just enough to fit a car on. And the lack of maintenance means the metal and wood it's made from is decaying and in a near constant state of slipperiness from all the ice and snow. Okay. Whilst most of us wouldn't be caught dead on something so treacherous, it turns out there are some people out there wild enough to try it. Those crazy few have even made their own Facebook group where they can chat and exchange videos of them crossing the bridge. Right. Whatever floats your boat, but you won't catch me joining anytime soon. Glass giant. Okay, quiz time. What's scarier than walking across a really tall stone bridge? Well, walking across a really tall glass-bottomed bridge, of course. This, my friends, is the Bac Long Glass Bridge in Vietnam's Son La province. It looms almost 500 feet above the rocky ground below, and at a stupendous 2,073 feet long, you'd have no chance of running to safety if anything went wrong. The narrow pedestrian walkway stretches across an expanse of forest, then winds around the mountains, offering a heart-wrenching view of the sheer drop below. So, how can people be so sure it won't shatter or send them plunging to their demise? Well, a special kind of tempered glass panel has been used for the bridge's floor. These are much stronger than standard glass, with multiple layers of vinyl incorporated into the glass panes for extra reinforcement. The nifty technique makes the glass resilient to cyclones and hurricanes, and means the bridge can safely hold up to 450 people at once. Nevertheless, that doesn't make it any less petrifying. What if a 451st person accidentally stepped on it? Would that make the whole thing shatter? And if it rained, wouldn't the walkway get treacherously slippery? For me, the real slip-up would be stepping on this horror show in the first place. Madagascan Menace. Let's be real. No matter how perilous a bridge looks, if it's built over a load of marshmallows and fairy dust, you're not going to find it scary. Well, there's certainly no marshmallows or fairy dust to be found beneath this rope bridge in Tsingy de Bamaraha National Park in Madagascar. Just tons of massive, spiky rocks. These otherworldly limestone formations have formed from hundreds of years of monsoon rains, wind, and floods battering and carving the rock. The resulting alien-like landscape has made it a go-to place for adventurers around the globe. Its popularity doesn't make it any less dangerous, though. So if you fancy going there, you'll only be allowed to cross its many rickety bridges whilst securely hooked up to safety ropes. Which is reassuring, I guess, considering I really wouldn't want to slip from here and crash into the knife-sharp spikes below. Even so, dozens of people safely cross these bridges every day whilst taking in the stunning views. So, if you're brave enough, the trip could be anything but pointless. Unlike the rocks, of course. Walk on the wild side. Walking the plank is something I usually associate with pirates and their unwilling victims. It turns out, though, that people over in Ghana love walking the plank, and are actually paying to do it. Well, kind of. This is one of the many wire rope bridges that hang precariously between the trees some 130 feet above the ground at Kakum National Park. To cross it, you've got to walk a plank so narrow that you need to place one foot directly in front of the next. The petrifying plank bridge is part of a 7-bridge network that extends over more than 1,000 feet of walkway, allowing anyone brave enough to get a truly once-in-a-lifetime view of the beautiful park. Brave being the key word, though. If the dizzying height alone isn't enough to send shivers down your spine, the fact that the bridges rigorously shake around whenever you take a step might be. Now, despite how scary it both looks and sounds, though, it's apparently super safe. Instead of being made from ropes or vines, the bridges are actually aluminum, so they're sturdy enough to hold a lot of people without breaking. Tour guides are so confident in this that they've even been known to jump around on it before leading a group across. Geez, I wouldn't be following those tour guides anywhere. Snow go. People say the greatest fear is that of the unknown. I say that's a load of baloney. It's actually the fear of the unknown while you're stood on a narrow suspension bridge on the top of a treacherous mountain. Yeah. At nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, the Titleist Cliff Walk is Europe's highest suspension bridge. It hangs over a hair-raising glacier in the Swiss Alps and is prone to life-threatening snowstorms that could hit at any moment. As well as making it mega windy, they also turn visibility so bad you'll hardly know what's 2 feet in front of you. Jeez. If it's really that bad up there, though, how on earth was it built in the first place? Well, not easily. Every part was either brought up the mountain on a cable or transported in by helicopters. Once up there, builders had to work in freezing conditions and were utterly reliant on the weather, forced to stop whenever it looked like turning bad. So it was quite the venture then, and it wasn't cheap either, costing the government over $1 million. And that's because despite looking precarious, the metal structure is designed to withstand staggering 120-mile-per-hour winds and 500 tons of snowfall, which is like 100 elephants jumping up and down. In fact, the engineers who built it have claimed it's so indestructible that it'll hang around for the next 1,000 years. If the wind doesn't sweep you off your feet then, that fact just might. Roller coaster ride. If you're an adrenaline junkie like me, you probably love a good roller coaster. But would you fancy driving over this? It's Japan's Ishima Ohashi Bridge, and it looks more like a thrill ride than a functional road. However, despite looking alarmingly unsafe, that steep incline is actually a safety feature. It allows huge trade ships to harmlessly pass below it on the lake it spans across. For the cars above it, though, it's significantly scarier, with the sharp rise leading into a speedy downhill dash towards either Matsue or Sakaiminato, the two cities it connects. Or at least, it looks like it'd be a speedy dash if you view it head-on. Take a look from the side, however, and you'll see it's hardly that steep at all. What? It's actually a relatively gradual incline towards the middle, but because the road's a mile long, it looks near vertical when viewed from the front. Damn. Well, that's the power of perspective, folks. Even so, I'd still want to check my handbrake was working properly before going across it. Fish and fear. Okay, so we've seen a couple of rope bridges already, but there's one that really takes the term hanging by a thread to the next level. This is the Carrick-a-Reid rope bridge in Ireland. Though, looking at it from this angle, it's hard to say it's a bridge at all. Suspended some 100 feet above the rocky chasm below, one slip could mean a swift bye-bye. Jeepers. It was first built all the way back in 1775 as a means for local fishermen to reach the neighboring Carrick-a-Reid Island. Safety wasn't exactly their top priority, though. Believe it or not, back then, it was even scarier than it is now. With just a single rope to hold onto and huge gaps in the walkway, it was less a bridge and more of a glorified tightrope. Thankfully, it's been rebuilt several times since then, so today's bridge is significantly safer. But that's not saying a lot. There's still very little to stop you from slipping through and ending up sleeping with the fishes. And even if you do make it across in one piece, there's no guarantee you'll feel up to the return journey. Some tourists have been so shaken by the experience, they had to be taken back off the island by boat. There's always one. Livestock Lane. You and I might find the idea of crossing a steep 440-foot-high bridge with nothing but a rope to stop you plunging into oblivion pretty damn horrifying. Donkeys and cows, however, don't seem to share that same fear. Over in Gasa, Nepal, shepherds herd their cattle over just such a bridge all the time. Aptly named the Hanging Bridge of Gasa, the death-defying walkway doesn't look capable of holding my aunt, let alone a whole bunch of animals. It doesn't help that the whole thing's at a seriously nauseating angle either, which makes it look more like a sadistic children's slide than a walkable platform. And just look at that drop. Fortunately, the bridge isn't the only way to get to the other side of the ravine, so if you're ever in Gaza, you don't need to panic. It was only built so animals could cross over without causing congestion on the actual roads. To be honest, it doesn't seem like the most sensible solution to me, but neither the animals nor shepherds have complained, so whatever. Rather them than me. Mind Bender. Let's play a game. Close your eyes and imagine the freakiest, most adrenaline-boosting bridge you can possibly imagine. Okay, now open. I bet whatever you imagined wasn't as insane as the Ruyi Bridge in Taizhou, Zhejiang, China. Unlike many of the bridges we've seen, this one was specifically designed to be scary. The spine-tingling structure hangs 460 feet above a gigantic ravine and consists of 3 winding platforms. Unsurprisingly, the crazy feat of engineering has caused quite a stir on social media. The design looks so impossible that people were convinced it was fake. Unfortunately for my vertigo, however, it's very real, though its architect, He Yun Chang, is keeping the secrets of its creation firmly behind lock and key. No one really knows how it was built, which is a little worrying when you've got thousands of people crossing it every day. What's more, considering how high up it is, it's gotta be super windy up there. As far as I'm aware, there haven't been any accidents yet, but just look at how short those handrails are. I know I wouldn't be taking my chances. Big Scary Mac. Up next, we have Big Mac from Michigan, weighing in at over 1 million tons. Let's get ready to rumble! Sorry. I may have been watching too much boxing recently. The huge Mackinac suspension bridge can't throw any punches, but it's still scarier than being in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. As well as looking like it belongs in a post-apocalyptic zombie movie, the dauntingly long 5-mile structure sways menacingly in the wind as you drive across it. It is supposed to sway, though. Because of its flexible design, Big Mac can tolerate up to 150-mile-per-hour winds ripping into it. Considering the oversea road can swing up to 35 feet from side to side, though, it's no surprise motorists find crossing it so scary, especially after what happened to the Galloping Gertie. Wait, the what now? Well, the Galloping Gertie was a similar suspension bridge in Washington, nicknamed because of how hard it swayed up and down in the wind. Just 4 months after its grand opening in July 1940, a colossal storm hit the city, throwing 42-mile-per-hour winds at the bridge. Its narrow roadway made it super flexible, but it wasn't built properly to absorb the wind turbulence, so it began twisting violently in on itself and eventually collapsed. Jeez. Luckily, we know a lot more about bridge construction now, and the Mackinac Bridge is safe despite its tendency to move from side to side. Even so, if winds hit 65 miles per hour, then it has to be closed, just in case. Some drivers get so nervous about crossing it that, for a price, the Mackinac Bridge Authority will drive your vehicle over for you. And I guess those drivers don't fancy throwing caution to the wind. Fraying fibers. These days, bridges are generally made of tough stuff, but there's one bridge over a gorge in Peru that's made of no more than grass and tree trunks. And if you think that sounds flimsy, well, you'd be right. In fact, the woven grass fibers fray so easily that the bridge needs to be rebuilt every year or two. Oh boy. The Quesuchaca Bridge is suspended 30 feet above the Apurimac River and is the last remaining Incan suspension bridge. These bridges were popular in the time of the Incan Empire, some 5 centuries ago. And back then, there were almost 200 of them. Over the years, though, most of them gave way and have been replaced with more modern equivalents, except for one, of course. Every June, members of the local Andean communities gather together to remake the Quesuchaca Bridge. To do so, they weave countless blades of dry grass into long, rope-like cables, an age-old method used by their ancestors. The whole process takes around 3 days, and close to 1,000 people come to celebrate with food, music, and dancing. Now, normally I love a festival, but there's no way anyone's roping me into that one. Questionable crossing. If you thought Pakistan's Hussaini Bridge was bad, you've seen nothing yet. The nearby Alam Bridge is so dangerous that police are stationed on each side to make sure nothing too heavy tries to get across. At almost 1,000 feet in length, this bridge is one of the longest in the Gilgit-Baltistan province, which wouldn't be an issue if it was, safe. It's not, though. The unsteady structure was originally built back in 1978 to allow the small amount of traffic in the area to cross the Gilgit River. As such, iron rods and wooden planks were deemed sufficient to hold the weight of vehicles. However, by 2014, the local population had increased massively to over 300,000 people, and the flimsy design started to struggle under all the extra traffic. This came to a head when part of the bridge actually collapsed after a heavily loaded truck tried to pass over it. Thankfully, the 2 men inside managed to jump from the stuck vehicle and flee to the end of the bridge with their lives. I can't imagine how terrifying that run must have been. Despite this dice with death, authorities in the area still haven't replaced the bridge with a stronger concrete alternative, opting to repair the current structure instead. And I thought my commute was bad. The long haul. If you're a nervous driver like me, driving across even a normal bridge can be pretty damn scary. So one that's almost 17 miles long and stretches over a vast expanse of empty ocean is like something out of my worst nightmares. This is the Jiazhou Bay Bridge in eastern China, one of the longest sea bridges in the world. On foggy days, ominous, misty waters surround the lengthy road and make a trip across it feel more like you're heading into Silent Hill than Qingdao or Huangdao, the 2 districts it actually connects. Now, you might be thinking, come on, it's not that scary, but let's say it's midnight and you're driving back from somewhere. Would you fancy a lonely 20-minute journey across this ghostly water-bound expanse of steel and concrete? Yeah, looks like the perfect place for a creepy ghoul to hang out to me. And though the bridge is supposedly safe now, it wasn't always that way. Back in 2011, when it first opened, there were reports of incomplete crash barriers, missing lights, and loose nuts on the ground railings. Yikes. Doesn't exactly fill you with confidence, does it? I think I'd just catch the train. Sky-high terror. Theme parks are a great way to conquer your fears, but if something goes wrong, they can have quite the opposite effect. Chinese theme park Wansheng Ordovichian had a popular attraction inviting daredevils to jump across a series of planks some 500 feet above the ground. Normally, there's no real danger because you're strapped into a harness, but back in 2018, one visitor got the shock of his life. Yep, the strap slipped right off. Luckily, it happened after he'd already finished the challenge, but man, just seconds earlier, and it could have been a lot worse. Following the incident, authorities ordered the attraction to be shut down. And you don't see me complaining, but I might find it in myself to give this glass-bottomed bridge a go. It juts out 230 feet from the side of a sheer cliff, and you can see all the way down to the forest some 390 feet below. Okay, on second thought, no, I'll never be going on it. Would you? Hey, let me know down in the comments below. Cliff Clinger. As you might have guessed by now, Asia seriously loves its glass-bottomed bridges, and apparently, the more pant-wettingly horrifying, the better. Which explains the popularity of China's Coiling Dragon Cliff Skywalk in the Tiananmen Mountains. This bold project is built nearly a mile high and winds around the edges of one of the blood-curdling near-vertical mountains. To get to the top, you need to traverse a harrowing 99 hairpin bends, whilst trying not to throw your dinner over the side. Amazingly, over 20 million brave visitors have done so since it opened in 2011. It used to be made from wood, but the developers obviously didn't think it was scary enough, so they replaced the entire twisting walkway with transparent glass panels instead. Of course they did. Despite being reinforced with concrete supports, though, 43 pieces of the walkway have already had to be replaced due to wear and tear. Right. If that's not reason enough to be worried about a wander on this thing, I really don't like the look of those railings. I mean, they're short enough you could fall right over them. Forget coiling dragon. If I ended up on there, I'd be more like a recoiling rabbit. Okay, that's just about all the time we've got for today, folks. Which bridge did you find the scariest? Let me know down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.